BionicDance is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Today I want to talk about morality and why we talk about morality to differentiate Christianity from atheism.
I get the impression that you do it mostly to pump up your own ego by declaring how much more moral you are, which is odd considering that humility is supposed to be one of a Christian's virtues. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Some of you may wonder why I'm covering morality again. Haven't I gone over this hundreds of times already? Well, yes, but there are definitely people out there who've only just discovered their atheism and may not have yet fully explored the issue. And much as I'd love them to go binge watch my entire video catalog, hint hint, that's over 1,000 videos, so I hardly expect it. And I'm here with a message. I consider what I do to be a form of activism. It would hardly be effective to say what needs saying once and then never again. What causes are won by doing that? And so, onward!
Objectively speaking, are your moral values on the same scale of relevance as those displayed in other countries? Are your values, objectively speaking, on the same scale as those displayed in other societies? Because in an atheist worldview, morals are relative. They're subjective. They're not based on any rule that must be followed in the world.
On a completely superficial level, this question seems quite reasonable, but if you dig under the surface, it's actually naive and nonsensical. A rule that must be followed? Well, what makes a rule something that must be followed? Have you never known a rule that didn't have exceptions, provisions for extenuating circumstances, or rules which weren't ambiguous, which could be interpreted different ways, or rules which were just thrown out entirely? Whether we're talking about laws or games, there is always wiggle room. For example, killing people. We allow it in war, we allow it in self-defense, we even allow it by accident, but deliberate murder is where we draw the line. Or Monopoly. I've played Monopoly all my life and only recently discovered that there's a rule about buying property. If someone lands on a space that's not yet owned and decides to not buy it, the bank is supposed to auction it off to the highest bidder. Did you know that rule? I sure didn't, and I know nobody who plays that way. I even have a PC version, and that rule is not built into the game at all. Rules are not absolutes. They're guidelines for making our lives easier. Nothing more.
And in fact, most people do not follow a rule. I mean, there are religions and stuff, but they do not follow a specific rule that's based on some natural means. Because nature does not provide any objective moral law or code. If you look at nature, pretty much anything goes. It's pretty much survival of the fittest.
But here's a twist. You know what makes a species more fit to survive? Rules. If humanity didn't have rules, we'd have wiped ourselves out ages ago. And humans aren't the only ones with rules. Wolves, for example, have rules for when two members of the pack get into a fight. There are certain gestures and postures that indicate submission, which end any struggle. We see evidence of this throughout the animal kingdom, and it's different with every species, but always aids in survival and eventual procreation. So, no, nature is not just anything goes, but it is no God required.
And when I watch a National Geographic documentary or something of that nature, all I see is evil things, bad things going on in nature.
This won't be the only time in his video when he claims to be seeing bad things. Not once does he say what these bad things are. It's difficult to form a coherent and relevant counterargument when there's nothing given for comparison.
I personally believe that human beings are unique, we're different, we have a spirit.
Well, I don't give a sloppy rat's hindquarters what you personally believe, especially not if it's the basis for telling other people what they personally believe is bullshit. Some religions believe that animals have spirits. Can you prove them wrong? Can you prove yourself right? Show me the evidence, kiddo. Stuff some currency down your face hole for us.
A spirit of knowledge, of truth, and of experience. And that both experience and knowledge contribute to reaching objective moral values or objective truths that are self-evident. They do not require our observation but they are self-evident.
Experience and knowledge are a great basis for learning truth, but they should show us that objective values do not and cannot exist. By definition, by its very nature, value is relative, is subjective. A gold Rolex means far less to a drowning man than a stout piece of wood, and stealing food becomes less evil to a starving man than to the fat man who eats steak with every meal. Knowledge and experience show us that our values and our morals are flexible, and the only authority to which we must answer is ourselves. Anything else is wishful thinking.
If you look at how the world really works, it's funny because I often hear atheists say there are morals in the world, that people should automatically know how to be good.
I'd like to know which atheists are saying that, because I'm definitely not one of them. Good and evil don't exist as anything but concepts. There is really only beneficial and harmful, and there are different levels of each, from the individual to the society to the species. And though there is a lot of overlap from person to person, every individual carries their own personal set of morals in their head. There are 7.5 billion humans on Earth and 7.5 billion different moral codes.
I believe this is why we see in reality a bunch of crimes being done. People cheating on their wives, people killing people, murdering, raping, and stealing, and pretty much everything else. The reason why we see this happening in the real world and not in this la-la land that everyone automatically knows how to be good, the reason why we see this is because everyone defines their purpose in life differently, and that's the most crucial point. Because whenever you can define your purpose in life however you want, then you can live however you want.
Except that you can't. You know what happens when people try to live the way they want and it hurts others? They pay for it. Prison, war, fines, sanctions, ridicule, and ostracism, among other punishments. When you start acting like a dick, hardly anybody decides to put up with it, unless they personally benefit, but that's just how the world is. And I am behaving exactly the way I want to. I've killed nobody, cheated on nobody. I'm polite to waitstaff, and I hold doors open for strangers. You know why? Because I know I'd want to be treated that way, and so I'm paying it forward, being what I want to see in the world. I'm a rabid and screaming atheist, and maybe I'm not better, but there are a lot of religious people who are much worse.
And nature, like I said, nature itself does not have a code of laws for us to follow. There's no natural means to be able to justify what is good. Okay? Because bad things happen all the time in nature.
Again, he doesn't say what those bad things are, or why we should think that they are bad.
To be an atheist is to pretty much create to commit self-suicide when it comes to morality, because morals do not really exist objectively in our reality unless there is a God.
Statements like these are why I suspect that theists don't know what the word objective means, because even if we ignore the definition involving empiricism, for something to be objective, it still has to be unbiased, which means that it cannot come from the mind of a god. That would make it about as biased as you can get. That morality is God's bias doesn't make it an exception to the objective-subjective distinction. And this assumes a God exists in the first place, proof of which should be the first step in his assertion.
In Christianity and beliefs, and if there is a God, we would see people doing things that are illogical, that would kill themselves for helping other people who they don't even know, who won't even benefit them in any way.
And this is what you can expect from a religion based around a martyr. Kill yourself for someone else. Yeah, right. Bounds of reason here, kiddo. Tell you what. I might risk my life for someone else. I might inconvenience myself for someone else. Same basic idea, rather less extreme. But I challenge you to find me a truly selfless act. Even throwing yourself on that grenade means you'll be remembered as a sacrificial hero. And maybe you think it'll get you into heaven. Like I said, I'm nice to strangers because it's how I want to be treated too. So maybe I'm polite for my own benefit. But so what? I'm still making their day better, or at least no worse, by my presence. Why should it matter whether I get something out of it too? What should matter is whether I refuse to do it if I don't.
So I believe there is a God, that truths, that knowledge and experience do contribute to reaching truths, objective truths that exist, and that they're relevant to us because we are creatures with a spirit.
And here is where the wishful thinking comes in. He says it's his beliefs, so right away we know that facts aren't playing a prominent role in his position. And if you really listen to the subtext of what he's saying, his reasons for his beliefs aren't facts. It's because he doesn't like the alternative. He can say knowledge and experience inform his beliefs all he likes, but he's also described seeing mostly bad things in nature, then provides baseless assertions that humanity is different. I don't think he really realizes what he said, how self-contradictory he's been. But that's what he said, and I cannot respond to him any other way.
We can't separate ourselves from the other animals that are in nature. We can do that. And the Bible gives us the reason why. Okay? Atheism does not give any reason.
And I don't like that, so it can't possibly be the one that's true. Right?
So I kind of find it amusing when there's many atheists who think that morals are self-evident. That, oh, you don't know how to be good without a God.
I don't think that morals are self-evident because morals aren't built into the universe. They're a social construct and subject to change or reinterpretation. However, the challenge is still relevant. If you cannot treat people well without your divine rulebook, there's something wrong with you. But this is part of the problem with religious morality. Theists expect certainty. They demand a rulebook to which they can refer. They don't want to have to improvise or make judgment calls. Religious morality is the very essence of running on automatic. The rules are written down, so you don't have to think to evaluate the consequences of your actions. Nobody has to ask themselves, what will happen if I do X, and will that have adverse consequences to which people might object? What they want is just don't do X, and the reason why doesn't matter. God says so, and I will obey.
So, tell me what you guys think, and you have a blessed day, guys.
I think you're self-deluded and playing the world's oldest game of make-believe. And I think I might not want to be around you if you ever stopped. Have a blessed day, you say? All right, and may the Force be with you. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. You've got two choices. You can rate this video and share it everywhere across social media, or I can send my minions after you. Choose wisely.